Hey guys, we're here today with a 2023 Nissan Z. We have a 400 horsepower, 3-liter twin-turbo V6, straight from the Q50 Red Sport. A few tweaks here and there for extra responsiveness, but for the most part it's the same engine. We have 19-inch alloy wheels. This is the Performance Package Z, and a 9-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters. I think they're taken straight from the GTR. So a pretty compelling package. We've already done a video on the 6-speed manual Z. Thoroughly enjoyed my time in that. And this 9-speed auto is actually proven to be quite impressive. We've spent all day driving this on track, on some great back roads. We'll just walk you around this real quick and then we'll take it for a drive. Very familiar trunk space, actually quite similar to the 370Z. And that carries over to some interior pieces. So on the inside, let's start this up. Listen to that exhaust, and I'll show you around the inside here. This has the Performance, the Nismo Performance exhaust fitted to it. Nissan's going to be coming out with a few performance parts. Brake pads, exhaust, wheels, maybe some other pieces in the future. Who knows? So look at the interior here. We've got a few changes, namely the steering wheel is quite a bit different, and we have lots of digital gauge clusters. We still have the classic Z 3-pod, 3 pods on the top of the dash here with our boost pressure, turbo speed, and a battery voltmeter. This is our infotainment. We get a slightly smaller screen in the Sport model, but everything above that gets this larger touch screen. It's pretty responsive. We have wireless CarPlay, Android Auto. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard Nissan infotainment system. Integration of tech seems to work great so far. Kind of a funky shifter, similar to some other Nissan models in the way that it operates. We've got a pretty low-res reverse camera, nothing special there, but we get a mechanical handbrake and some seat controls taken straight from the 370Z. And actually, these seats look pretty similar too. A couple of cup holders here in the center, a sliding armrest. This piece moves up, you can store your phone in there. I appreciate there's a couple great spots here to put your phone in the Z. That's nice. Something my BRZ is definitely lacking. This is the same platform and chassis as the previous generation, but we've got some really nice suspension tweaks. This actually rides really, really well. We're on 19-inch wheels with this performance pack. We also get 4 piston brakes up front and 2 pistons in the rear. But the real heart of the Z is this new engine. Makes a great noise too. The 370 had that piped in, enhanced sound. It never felt very authentic. This sounds pretty good. So with that, I think those are some basics out of the way. Let's hop in and take this thing for a drive. A little bit of off-roading here, and then we've got a very nice back road ahead of us. One press to turn off traction control. There are 2 drive modes, Standard and Sport. In Standard, the automatic pretty much just acts like any other 9-speed auto would. It's shifting at the lowest revs possible and prioritizing fuel economy. You do have quite a bit of manual control over this transmission using the paddles. And the paddles do have a satisfying feel to them. But if you really want to enjoy this car, you gotta flip it over into Sport mode. The torque is insane, the power is addictive, but that's not all that I love about this new Z. The steering is fantastic. We've moved to an electronic power steering rack instead of the old hydraulic from the 370. And I've got to say, I don't miss the hydraulic rack. This feels really good. I have a great amount of feel through the steering wheel. I know the texture of the pavement. I know how much grip I have on the front end. And the ride quality is very well composed too. Nissan told me they stiffened everything, chassis, suspension, and I was a little bit worried at first, but this ride's great. It's a lot more composed at the limit and over rough roads than the 370Z was. This would make a great Grand Tour, a fantastic GT car. Shifter here. Super progressive at the limit, easy to control. 400 horsepower doesn't hurt either. And because this is a twin turbo V6, it's pretty responsive. There's just a split second of hesitation, just a minute second of turbo lag. But once the power comes on, this feels great. And in the higher revs, it's just such a fun car to rev out. If I had any complaints, it would be that launch control is a little bit overly complicated to engage. There's a little bit of overly reflective gloss black plastic here on this center stack. It's reflecting a lot of sunlight all day. Actually, you know what? We got to do a launch control. Let's put it into drive. Traction control is off. You got to go hard on the brake, full throttle, hold the paddles, and let go. And that'll engage launch control. All the way down. Chirping second and third. Pretty quick. Standard exhaust, it's a little bit muted, a little bit quieter. There is some enhanced active sound going on through the speakers, but it's very well done. You can barely tell that it's there. Second gear is so addictive. This thing is properly quick, you guys. This automatic lacks the snappiness and responsiveness of a dual clutch. However, I think it still suits the character of this car really well. Left to its own devices in drive, I'm not as crazy about this automatic. If you just kind of let it do its thing. Even in sport mode, it's a little bit clunky. It's not making the best shift decisions. I found that to be the case on track as well, but if you take over and use these paddles yourself, it is a hugely satisfying and enjoyable driving experience. how simple they've kept this car at launch. There are no adaptive dampers. It's just one good suspension setup. The layout of this interior and cabin is very driver-centric and driver-focused. It doesn't distract or detract from the driving experience. You can access all of your controls quickly between your drive mode switch to all of your audio and media controls. This is pretty much the same Nissan infotainment we've seen in a lot of other models. Just cruising here in the city, let's do a sound system test. Road is kind of rough, so it's a little bit more difficult to hear than it would be normally, but I like this sound system. They've done a nice job with it. Nissan's got some pretty decent sound systems these days, and this new Z is no exception. These are all prototype vehicles. There are a few rattles throughout this interior, some in the window and the back, but it's a sports car, kind of goes with the territory. The manual vehicle that I had was pretty tight, pretty solid. For about the same money, what would you guys rather have? This or that Camaro? SS1LE? That's a pretty sweet package too. Yeah. Gosh, so many great sports cars to choose from right now. We are truly living in a very fortunate era. Nissan told us this morning sports car sales have gone up 25% this last year. I can see why. People are getting their last kicks in before we go all electric. There's a little bit of a ticking clock going on. It's great to see manufacturers still coming out with new sports cars, new models. The BRZ, the Supra, that just got released with a manual transmission yesterday. Yeah, good times, you guys. That's a nice SS1LE. If you want high power, if you want a really great overall sports car that can be comfortable, be fast, do drag racing, do track work, do the daily grind, or be a fun weekend warrior, this is a really, really good option on the market. I'm kind of shocked at how comfortable it is and how nice it's been to just drive and cruise and put some miles on in this week. Yeah, it's a really nice car. Nissan's done a very good job with this. I'm pleasantly surprised with all the decisions that they made with this new Z, and I'm glad to report that it's a pretty sweet overall evolution of the 370. And I never really loved the 370Z. I thought it was a little bit of a clumsy car to drive. This is much better. Still at the limit, we get some safe understeer, but I'm sure you could dial that out with some slightly larger front tires. This is a staggered setup. I believe we have 275s at the rear, 255s at the front. The sport model is a square setup, so you can actually rotate tires, which is pretty cool. Yeah, 275, 35 R19s in the rear, and 255, 40 R19s in the front. So decent tire setup, pretty beefy. Just the perfect amount of traction for the power level here. All right, guys. So what do you think? New Z, 50 grand, 53 grand as tested. Is it worth it? I think it is. This is a great sports car, and hopefully it lasts us another 10, 12 years in this current form, in this new generation. Yes, it's based on the 370Z chassis. This is still, it's showing its age. Some of the switchgear in here is carryover from the 370. That's okay though. If that means that this car exists and that it gets to live beyond into the future, I think that's a worthy trade-off. And don't knock this 9-speed auto. It's a fun transmission to drive. I think the manual is definitely still the enthusiast choice. I'd highly recommend the Nismo exhaust. It sounds fantastic. Anyway, that'll be it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.